This is Akashvani. In the program Insights, now we bring you a discussion on India-Nepal relations. The participants are Manjeev Puri, former ambassador of India to Nepal, and Simran Sodhi, journalist.
Today we are discussing the visit of the Nepalese Prime Minister to India. The Nepalese Prime Minister arrived yesterday and today he held delegation level talks with Prime Minister Modi, and both sides also signed about 7 agreements. We see this is a very significant visit because this is also the Nepalese Prime Minister's first visit abroad since he became the Prime Minister in December of last year. Ambassador Puri, how much of a significance do you attach to this visit, given the fact that this is his first visit abroad after he became the PM?
Look, for me, all visits by Nepali Prime Ministers are important, but this visit has its special significance. This is the first visit that Mr. Prachand is taking overseas after assuming office in December, but this is not his first visit to India. He has been here, I think, on 3 or 4 occasions as Prime Minister, because this is the third time that he is becoming Prime Minister of Nepal. Having said this, I must say this visit is also significant in various other ways. Let me point out a few. One is that, after COVID, which hit Nepal also equally bad, including in terms of its economy, there was a visit by Prime Minister Sheikh Bahadur Dioba, but then there were elections. And now Mr. Prachand has assumed office, heading a coalition of the Nepali Congress and his own Maoist center. But it is a government which has come to power after an election. So that's important. He brings with him a political mandate, and coming to India first is a good sign. It's a sign that we always had. There were a few aberrations in the past, but it's all positive, and I look at all of this as a positive augury and good sign for the near times.
Ambassador Puri, we also see that, whenever we talk about India-Nepal relations, there is always this shadow of China which somewhere creeps in. How much do you think is that a concern for India, or do you think with the passage of time, India-Nepal relations now stand on their own?
So Simran, look, India has a 1,500-kilometer land border with Nepal. And let me point out to your listeners that Nepal and China have a 1,400-kilometer land border too. So Nepal's position is in that sense unique. And this particular factor has always been there in the calculation. In the past, with Chinese capabilities being much less, with Chinese assertions of hegemony also being at a lower order, it was always basically India, and India loomed large in Nepal. And let me say, I believe it still does. However, the question that you asked is about the current situation. And there should be no doubt that the fact that the Chinese have capabilities, they have capacities, and let me also say they have interest in Nepal for a variety of reasons. Therefore, their abilities, their interest, their influence is something that we now have to make, let me say, par for the course in terms of how we deal with Nepal and how we interact with the country. Having said that, I believe very strongly that as things currently stand and as things will evolve, our position in Nepal will continue to remain a strong one.
Ambassador Puri, we see that today the two sides signed 7 agreements to boost cooperation in a range of areas, which include the extension of cross-border petroleum pipeline, development of integrated checkposts, and boosting cooperation in hydroelectric power. And the Prime Minister, when he spoke to the media after the joint statement, he also said that we will continue to strive to take our relationship to Himalayan heights, and in this spirit, we will resolve all issues, be it boundary related or any other. Going forward, how do you see this boundary issue, which has sometimes crept into this bilateral relation, being sorted out?
Boundary issues, let me say it's a truism. They sometimes become easy to create, but almost impossible to resolve, because they involve issues of nationalism, and this is true for all countries. We know our own examples also. Having said all of this, I think the answer lies in talking about the issue, in talking about what are the ways in which we can go forward, and we can ensure that these particular issues don't become irritants, but become subject matters which have to be resolved in a diplomatic manner and in a friendly and amicable manner. I am glad the matter was referred to by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, because the Nepalese Prime Minister would have in any case referred to it. And there is a domestic reason for him to go back in Nepal and report that he took up the matter. So when the Honorable Prime Minister of India says, we are committed to talking about this subject and trying to find amicable resolution, it resonates well in Nepal, it resonates well with the future of Indo-Nepal relations. It was a good and I believe a constructive discussion on trying to find answers even to problems which do have their own complexity.
Ambassador Puri, we also saw that the Prime Minister today said that to further strengthen cultural and religious ties, PM Prachand and I decided that projects related to Ramayana circuit should be expedited. How do you think the fact that India and Nepal also share this civilizational cultural link, how much does this play into strengthening this bilateral relationship?
That's the bedrock, isn't it? India and Nepal share a link at the level of people. This link can be seen in every particular facet. How we dress, what we eat, and literally, if I may say so, how we think. So there is this binding. This binding, of course, has a very strong, let me say, religion interlay also. After all, Nepal has, in terms of percentages, more Hindus in its population than India has. And Janakpur lies in Nepal, the birthplace of goddess Sita. So the links are aplenty. And these links, which have been there from times immemorial, the location of the Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu, Muktinath in Kathmandu. But you have to constantly keep nurturing. And I have not intentionally or otherwise the entire link of Buddhism. Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi and the efforts that he has made in the past in terms of the India-Nepal linkages on the life of Lord Buddha. After all, Buddha was born in Nepal, and the linkages that we have as a result. So, look, my understanding is that these are things which need to be nurtured, and they need to be integrated with modern life and society as it is. The Prime Minister mentioned the Ramayana circuit. I hope you are aware that the Indian Railways, IRCTC, runs a package, a Ramayana package, which in fact takes you to Janakpur, because there's a train link from India all the way to Janakpur, which is operational, and they use that part of it. So I'm very glad that we are doing more in this. You know, you have to keep alive what has been there for centuries and generations, but you must do your bit to keep it strengthened in current times, and the Ramayana circuit and people's links are critically important. This is what really binds our two countries together.
Ambassador Puri, we also see that the Prime Minister today, he said that he has given a hit formula for India-Nepal relations and he intends to take it forward to a super hit formula. For our listeners, could you elaborate and explain this, how the highways and the transways play this important role in this relationship?
The Honorable Prime Minister of India, brought in neighborhood first from the get-go, as they say. When he was inaugurated as Prime Minister in 2014, among his very first trips overseas was one to Nepal, where he was lauded, received in an unprecedented manner, and with so much love and affection showered over him, including, if I may say so, and you'd be surprised by this, by the Nepalese media and by all those sections of Nepalese society which invariably find something to be critical as far as India is concerned. Yet, people found that here was a Prime Minister who was committed to this relationship, and they did it. However, of course, things in Nepal and India relations have their downs as well as they have their ups. Things went a little off, but they've come back on track and are progressing smoothly and going forward. Look at these oil pipelines. One of the issues that used to be transport links have been snapped. There is a problem of fuel in Nepal. Now you have pipelines. What are you talking about? They are supplied 24/7. We're going to build another pipeline in the eastern part of Nepal. We are going to extend this pipeline. So, we are finding technological solutions to actually ensure that issues that used to be raked up in the past can't be raked up because technology has overcome. And we are doing connectivity. We are ensuring that the benefits of the growth of the Indian economy are at the doorstep of Nepal and easily available for the Nepalese to, in a sense, dip into and take advantage without the problem of roads not being there, rail connections not being there. We are doing our bit. We are seeing this in air links being developed. So I'm very glad that all these things are happening. All of them lead to a betterment of the ties, or let me not say betterment, let me say strengthening and continuously nurturing of the people's ties, the ties between the two economies, and hence the ties between the two countries as a whole, particularly good and positive for our times to come.
Ambassador Puri, we also see that the power connectivity also plays a role in India-Nepal relations. And today, the Prime Minister has also been quoted as saying that long-term power trade agreement has been established between India and Nepal today. This will give strength to the power sector of our countries. How much do you think this is the core of the relationship? Also, if we look at many of the analysis, there has been some critique that India is a little slow when it comes to completing projects. So how do you tackle both these issues?
Simran, let me take this one by one. First, I didn't answer the question of HIT and superhit. So HIT stands for highways, infoways, and transways. Now, this was exactly what the Honorable Prime Minister over the last 9 years has done. Huge development of infrastructure, the digital economy in India, and we were very happy to extend this in Nepal. And that is what we are doing in terms of connectivity and in terms of our bilateral projects in Nepal. Now, when you say projects are behind schedule, look, in some of these cases, these are truism. There are endless number of problems in Nepal, shortage of labor, contractors work to different terms and conditions. There are difficulties in terms of the geology of Nepal. It's a very difficult geology to work for. But on the other hand, let me just tell you, the biggest project being undertaken in Nepal, the Arun 3 hydroelectric project, 900 megawatt project. And now the next project on the same river, the lower Arun project of about 660 odd megawatts. There, Arun 3 is progressing exactly as per scheme. And in fact, you talked about power connectivity and what does it mean? At the end of the day, landlocked Nepal's greatest asset perhaps is its abilities to produce hydropower. And in times when we are looking at climate change and talking in terms of reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, this is one of the areas in which Nepal has economic potential. We need this potential and it becomes a win-win situation. When I went to Nepal as ambassador in the beginning of 2017, due to a variety of factors, Nepal was actually importing electric power from India. Today, they are exporting about 400 megawatts of electric power to India. And the agreement today signed talks of 10,000 megawatts being exported from Nepal over a 10-year period. Look at the change. What will it do to the Nepalese economy? You and I know what it has done to the Bhutanese economy. So there are huge opportunities, and certainly waterways, and more than that, let me say hydropower potential of Nepal is perhaps one of Nepal's abiding assets. And when they monetize it, it's for their own economy and their own good. Of course, doing it in a manner which is sustainable and which takes care of all other concerns which have now come to the fore in the world and which need to be taken care of. I again think the development of hydropower is critical. And I'm paraphrasing you in saying this is Nepal's greatest asset in terms of earning that very scarce commodity, but which is very important for a better life and a more sustainable life for your people, which is money. And this is a source in which we benefit because we need energy and power which is without a carbon footprint. They benefit because they get money for development and other purposes. There is a win-win possibility, and I'm glad that this is all being taken forward at an expeditious.
And in the coming days, we will continue our discussions on the India-Nepal relationship and the many areas of cooperation and other issues with this. With these comments, we bring today's discussion to an end. Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on India-Nepal relations. The participants were Manjeev Puri, former ambassador of India to Nepal, and Simran Sodhi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may share your feedback about this program through email at airnsdtalks@gmail.com or WhatsApp on 928-909-4044.